I spent years begging my husband for affection. He always said, "I'm just not that romantic." Then I found out he was writing love poems to another woman. Devastated, I searched for comfort and found it in someone unexpected, his best friend. When my husband finally noticed me again, I laughed, "Now you see me?" Too late. But then his best friend revealed a secret that changed everything. I met my husband, Brian, at a coffee shop in San Diego when I was 24. He was 27, charming, and had a quiet confidence that drew me in. We married 2 years later. I thought we had a solid foundation, but over time, I began to feel like a ghost in my own home. Brian wasn't abusive or cruel, he was just absent. He'd come home from work, nod at me, eat dinner in silence, and bury himself in his laptop. When I tried to initiate intimacy or even just a heartfelt conversation, he'd say, "I'm just not that romantic." I believed him. I thought maybe he was just wired differently. I spent years trying to reignite the spark. I planned date nights, left little notes in his lunch, even tried couples counseling. He attended a few sessions but eventually stopped, saying, "We're fine. You're overthinking things." One evening, while cleaning our home office, I stumbled upon a notebook tucked behind some books on the shelf. Curious, I opened it. What I found shattered me. Page after page of love poems, all addressed to someone named L. The words were passionate, filled with longing and desire, the kind of emotions he hadn't expressed to me in years. My hands trembled as I read lines like, "Your smile ignites my soul," and "In your arms, I find home." I confronted Brian that night. He looked stunned, then angry. "You invaded my privacy," he snapped. He refused to tell me who Elle was, insisting it was just a creative outlet. But I knew better. Devastated, I turned to the only person I felt I could trust, Brian's best friend, Mark. Mark had always been kind to me, often checking in and making sure I was okay. When I told him about the poems, he looked genuinely hurt. "I had no idea," he said softly. "I'm so sorry." Over the next few weeks, Mark became my confidant. We'd meet for coffee, take walks along the beach, and talk for hours. He listened without judgment, offering comfort and understanding. One evening, after a particularly emotional conversation, Mark leaned in and kissed me. I pulled back, shocked. "I'm sorry," he whispered. I shouldn't have, but I stopped him. Because in that moment, I realized I wanted to feel desired, to feel seen. We didn't sleep together that night, but the emotional connection deepened. Suddenly, Brian began to change. He started coming home earlier, bringing me flowers, planning date nights. It was as if he sensed he was losing me. One night, as we sat on the couch, he took my hand. "I've been distant," he admitted. "I'm sorry. I want to make things right." I looked at him, a mix of anger and sadness bubbling inside me. "Now you see me?" I said, tears streaming down my face. Too late. A few days later, Mark asked to meet. We sat on a bench overlooking the ocean, the sun setting in the distance. "There's something you need to know," he began. "The woman Brian wrote those poems for, it's Lisa." Lisa was a mutual friend, someone who had drifted away from our circle years ago. I was stunned. "They had an affair," Mark continued. "It ended, but I think he never got over her." I felt a mix of relief and betrayal. Relief that I wasn't imagining things, and betrayal that Brian had been emotionally unfaithful for so long. After Mark told me about Lisa, I couldn't stop thinking about all the times Brian said he wasn't that romantic. Every dinner where he sat in silence. Every birthday he forgot. Every tear I cried alone in the bathroom while he typed away on his laptop, probably writing poems to her. I felt humiliated. But I also felt free. I had proof now. I wasn't crazy. I didn't tell Brian right away that I knew. I needed time to think. I needed space. So I started spending more time with Mark. We never crossed the line physically, but emotionally? We were already there. It felt wrong, but it also felt like breathing after years of drowning. Then one day, I came home early from work. Brian's car was in the driveway. I didn't expect him to be home. I walked in quietly, and I heard his voice. He was on the phone. And he was laughing. I know, babe. She has no idea. She's too busy being sad to notice anything. My stomach dropped. I froze. Then I heard him say her name. Lisa. I didn't walk in. I backed out of the house and sat in my car for a full hour, trying to process what I'd heard. I started playing a dangerous game. I acted like everything was normal. I smiled, cooked dinner, kissed him goodnight. I watched as he pretended to be the devoted husband. Flowers, texts during the day, offering to go to therapy again. He didn't know I had heard the call. He didn't know that I now knew Lisa wasn't just in the past. She was back. Maybe she had never really left. I told Mark. He was furious. You need to leave him. Now. I nodded, but I wasn't ready. I wasn't scared of being alone. I was scared of being stupid again. I needed to be sure. So I started digging. Emails. Old texts. Bank statements. And that's when I found something that made my blood run cold. A flight booking. Round trip. San Diego to Portland. 2 tickets. For the same weekend he told me he was going on a work retreat. He didn't even try to hide it well. The passenger names? Brian and Lisa. I printed the receipt and planned to confront him. But before I could, Mark called. I need to see you, he said. His voice sounded off. We met at the same bench by the beach. It was cloudy. Windy. Fitting. There's something else, he said. And I need to be honest before this goes any further between us. I felt sick. What is it? I knew about the affair. Before you did. Silence. A long, painful silence. I didn't know how serious it was. I thought it was just a stupid fling. I told him to end it. He swore he did. I believed him. But when you told me about the poems, I knew he had lied again. I couldn't even speak. I just stared at him. I should have told you, he said. I didn't want to lose you. And I knew if I told you the whole truth, you'd look at me differently. He was right. I did. Now I didn't trust either of them. Not Brian. Not Mark. Brian was a liar and a cheater. Mark was a coward. And I was stuck between a man who never saw me and a man who only saw me when it was too late. That night, I confronted Brian. I laid the flight receipts on the table. He didn't even flinch. You went through my stuff? You're sleeping with her again, I said. You never stopped, did you? He leaned back and sighed. What do you want me to say? It's complicated. No. It's not, I said. You made it complicated. I just lived in the mess. He stood up and walked toward me. And for the first time in years, he really looked at me. You think Mark's the better man? You think he didn't play you too? What are you talking about? He laughed, bitter. He's had feelings for you since the first year we got married. Don't pretend like this just happened recently. You two have been dancing around each other for years. He wasn't wrong. But hearing him say it out loud felt like being stabbed in the gut. Brian walked out that night. Packed a bag and left. I didn't follow. But I also didn't call Mark. I sat in the silence, listening to the clock tick, and wondered how I got here. So many lies. So many years wasted. And no one left to trust. 2 days after Brian left, Mark showed up at my door. He looked like he hadn't slept. I had to see you, he said. I didn't say anything. I let him in. We sat in the kitchen, the silence thick. I need to explain, he said. What Brian said, about how I've had feelings for you for years, it's true. But I never acted on it. Not once. I never crossed that line. Not until you came to me first. I wanted to believe him. But something in my gut told me there was still more he wasn't saying. You kept his secret, I said. You watched me fall apart, and you didn't tell me. He looked down. I know. Then he pulled a folded envelope out of his coat pocket and slid it across the table. What's this? Something I found in Brian's stuff a while back. I should have shown it to you earlier. I opened it. It was a letter. From Lisa. It was old. Dated 2 years ago. And it wasn't a love letter. It was a goodbye. She ended the affair. Said she couldn't keep being the other woman to a man who wouldn't even admit she existed. She told him to stop writing, stop calling, stop chasing. So the poems? They weren't a current love story. They were a fantasy. A morning. I felt sick. Mark watched me read. He didn't tell you because he didn't want to let go of the version of her he made up in his head. I couldn't process it. All this time, I thought I was the outsider. The neglected wife. But Lisa didn't want him either. So why the plane tickets? I asked. That's what I don't understand either, Mark said. But I think there's something else. I think Brian's been trying to see her again. Not to cheat. I think he was going to try and win her back. I laughed bitterly. She's married now. I saw on Facebook months ago. I know, Mark said. But obsession makes people stupid. That night, I got a call. From Lisa. I froze when I saw her name on the screen. But I answered. I know who you are, she said, flat. And I know you found the poems. What do you want? I asked. I want to make something clear. I ended things a long time ago. Brian showed up at my work last week. I told him if he ever contacted me again, I'd get a restraining order. I felt my heart pound. Wait, so you didn't agree to go on that trip? No, she said firmly. I didn't even know about it. That meant he booked 2 tickets for a trip she never agreed to. And he lied about it to himself. To me. To everyone. Then she said something I didn't expect. I think he's unraveling. Be careful. That night I sat in my bedroom, staring at the walls, trying to put it all together. Brian had created a world in his head where Lisa still loved him. Where they had a chance. Where I was just a background noise to his real story. He wasn't just distant. He was delusional. And Mark? I didn't know what to think anymore. He had kept the secret too long. And even though he brought me comfort, he benefited from Brian's failures. He stepped into the gap, slowly, quietly, like he'd been waiting for it. I was angry. Not just at Brian. But at myself. For being the last one to see the truth. The next morning, I got a knock on my door. It was a courier. No return address. Just a plain envelope. Inside was a USB drive and a note in Brian's handwriting. I wanted you to know the whole truth. Before I disappear. That word, disappear, sent chills through my body. I plugged in the drive. It was filled with journal entries, video logs, letters never sent. Brian had been documenting everything. The poems. The affair. The loss. The breakdown. He admitted he couldn't feel anything for a long time. Not for Lisa. Not for me. Not even for himself. But the worst part? He blamed Mark. He believed Mark sabotaged our marriage. He even wrote about moments when Mark planted ideas in his head to pull us apart. He thought Mark wanted me all along, and had slowly, methodically made sure he failed. And suddenly, I wasn't so sure he was wrong. I printed the letters from the USB, organized every journal entry, every piece of evidence. I called Mark. "I need you to come over," I said. "Now." He arrived 30 minutes later. I didn't say a word. Just handed him the pages. He started reading, slowly at first, then flipping faster, his face going pale. "What is this?" he asked, voice shaking. "It's Brian's truth. Everything he never said. Everything you never said." "I didn't sabotage anything," he said, defensive. He was already broken. You knew he was unraveling. You watched him spiral. And you still pushed in. "I was trying to protect you," Mark said, louder now. "You needed someone." "No," I snapped. "You wanted me." "There's a difference." He didn't deny it. "Brian blamed you for everything," I said. "Said you poisoned our marriage. Told me you planted doubts, made suggestions, twisted things." Mark stepped back like I'd hit him. "You believe him?" "I don't know who to believe anymore." We were screaming now, both standing in the middle of the kitchen, shaking, broken. And then the front door slammed open. Brian stood there. He looked terrible. Gaunt. Red-eyed. Sweating. "Don't believe a damn word he says," Brian growled. "He wanted this. All of this." I froze. Mark stepped between us. "You need to leave." "No," Brian said. "You need to confess." "To what?" Brian pulled a paper out of his jacket. A printed email. From Mark. Dated 2 years ago. A message to Lisa. "You were right. He doesn't deserve her. I'll make sure she sees it eventually." The room went silent. I took the paper. "Read it." "Read it again." "You reached out to her?" I whispered. Mark said nothing. "You tried to manipulate the situation from both ends." He swallowed hard. "It wasn't like that." "Yes, it was," Brian said. "You tried to make sure I lost her, and then you waited like a snake." Brian turned to me, tears in his eyes. "I screwed up. I know I did. But I wasn't the only one. I thought you didn't love me anymore. I thought I wasn't enough. And he used that." I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I felt nothing and everything all at once. "You both betrayed me," I said. "You, Brian, with your poems and your lies. And you, Mark, with your silence and your games." They both stood there, not speaking. I walked to the door. Opened it. "Get out," I said. Neither moved. I said get out. They left. One after the other. No apologies. No excuses. Just silence. I didn't hear from either of them for days. Word got out. Friends started calling. Some took sides. Some stayed silent. Brian's sister called to say she was sorry, that she always knew something was off. Mark's cousin sent me a long message blaming me for tempting 2 men. I blocked them all. I sat with the silence. With the betrayal. With the aching loneliness that followed. And then one morning, Lisa messaged again. "I heard everything," she wrote. "You didn't deserve this." I asked her how she dealt with it. How she walked away. Her reply was simple: "I stopped trying to fix people who didn't want to be whole." Part 18, Resolution and Reflection. A month passed. I filed for divorce. Brian didn't fight it. He left San Diego and moved north. Mark tried to reach out once. A handwritten letter. I didn't read it. I burned it. I've been alone since. At least physically. But for the first time in years, I feel like I can breathe. Like I'm living in truth, not lies wrapped in good intentions. I still have the notebook of poems. I keep it in a drawer. Not because I cherish it, but because I need the reminder. A reminder that love without truth is just fiction. I don't know what's next. But I know this, I'd rather be alone in truth than loved in lies.